This is
Culmina Fund.
Resist, Persist and Reimagine.
A new era for African women's political power. Welcome to Season 2 of Culmina Fund's podcast, Resist,
Persist and Reimagine. A new era for African women's political power.
Our guest today is Crystal Asige, a Kenyan senator who proves that leadership isn't one-dimensional. A multidisciplinary artist and disability rights advocate, Crystal didn't find politics, it found her. In this episode, we journey from her childhood in Mombasa on the coast of Kenya to the floor of the Senate. We tackled the crabs in a carrel mentality that limits women in power, the need for philanthropy to move beyond one-off trainings, and Crystal's radical call to redesign African democratic systems to fit their context. Whether you are searching for your own purpose or striving to build a more inclusive world,
this conversation is for you. Let's listen in.
My introduction of myself is always very short. My name is Crystal Asige. I am, well, many things, but primarily I am a person that believes in diversity. I'm a person that believes in leaving no one behind, including yourself. I am a person that really fights for people to be seen, heard, and understood, whatever their circumstance or wherever they're from. Personally, I'm from Mombasa, which is on the coast of Kenya, and lived there for pretty much all my life before I went to university in the UK, and then came back and delved into a very multidisciplinary career, ranging from music, to advocacy work, to disability rights, and now putting all of those together in my policy and political life.
You've actually affirmed me, not only just as a person, but also as a young woman. We often say it's a political statement and a choice to be multidimensional, multi-hyphenate, and multifaceted. We don't want to be put in a box. You can actually be as diverse as you want or you wish for, especially when it comes to either exploring or experiencing different categories and buckets, especially from a career perspective, up until you get maybe the 1, 2, 3 things that work for you in the long term. So that's really affirmed me because I'm also on a similar journey of trying to explore, experience a couple of things up until I knock on maybe 1, 2, 3 things.
Amazing.
But yeah, thank you so much for that. Maybe if we could dive into the segment now. Could you maybe share a little bit detail of why you ventured into politics and how your journey has been?
I actually did not find politics. Politics found me. That is the truth. I have come from a very small, humble background. I am the last child in my family of 4 kids. My parents still live in Mombasa right now as we speak. My siblings are in different parts of the world with their own standalone careers. And when I was a kid in Mombasa, all I really enjoyed was being on stage, was getting into character, because at the time when I was a kid, I wasn't very good at expressing myself. I was very shy. And so the stage, whether that's in plays or musical theater or singing, was a place where I could, become somebody else for a moment and express myself that way. So being a last born in a family of many lawyers, by the way, it's difficult to get your say, especially on the dinner table. Who's going to have that last piece of chapati? Things like that. But I think it was a really good training ground for me because I was last born, and I was the last born in a family of very strong opinions and voices. It gave me some kind of a foundation to be able to do what I'm doing today, I believe. And also the communication that I have gained through being someone that enjoys being on stage and assuming different characters and different positions, I think as well has definitely had a huge impact on how I speak today and how I relate to people today. When I was a kid, performing arts, sports. I'm a very strong swimmer because I'm a beach baby myself. So. And also just being curious, being curious about the world, being curious about other people, where they're from. I remember when I was a kid, my best friend was a Dutch boy. He was a neighbor. The parents had come in just for a very short stint as in an NGO. And they end up being our neighbors. And him and I, their last born, and I were best friends. And everyone in the neighborhood was like, oh my goodness, she has a white friend, a boy. So I was always sticking out, even when I didn't mean to stick out. And now it's the same thing. I stick out in politics, I stick out in music and different spaces that I go, but I embrace it as being a part of the unique sort of path that I've been set upon.
Very inspiring. I think I'll come for some swimming lessons. I still
Please.
struggle till today. My goodness. Hey,
Me, I come
at my
from
big age.
Mombasa.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious to understand from your context, what are some of the barriers and challenges you've identified, rather, that women face when it comes to the involvement in politics, especially those from marginalized and diverse backgrounds and identities?
I think I talked about it a little bit during our session today, which is that women, because of the way we've been conditioned over time, how we have been made to believe that there's only one way to get to a place. You can only show part of yourself, not your whole self. And in fact, the part that they want to see is just you being quiet, right? That's what we've been taught, not just from our education system or being socialized in our communities, but also generationally. That trauma has been passed on generation to generation. So I think what I see in politics, especially with young women, is that they feel like they have to regurgitate what has already been done before them. Like there's no other way, because people say, this is how we do it. This is how it's always been done. So don't come with new ideas. Don't think that you can come and disrupt. Don't think you can come and be someone different, because at the end of the day, you'll have to still assume the mold that has been created before you. That's one thing I see. I also see a challenge with women, especially in leadership and politics, as there's only space for one or two of us here. And so we all have to, battle it out. Crabs in a barrel kind of mentality. When I look at men, they don't see it that way. In fact, they embrace competition, the men. And so I think it's still part of the condition that we've been having, that I talked about for centuries before today, that says, only a few of you can be here. So fight it out and let the best woman win. But that shouldn't be the case, because actually the more women we are, the more change that we see. And the more change that we see, the more women can come in, and that cycle will continue going round and round and round. So even as I work, and though I am a unique sort of like individual in Parliament, because I'm the only one with a visual disability, I'm the only one who spans the three demos of a woman, a youth, and also a person with disability. I want to do my best, not just for myself and because I know that I work to excellence, and I have a plan and a mission that I want to see fulfilled, but also because I want the bar to be raised for people who look like me, people who identify with me in any kind of way, to say, hey, you can do this too. So let me try and open the door and sort of like, wedge my foot in the door so that more of you can come through. It's very important. It's leadership is not about just being a leader. It's also about creating followers.
I actually feel it's like we are in a classroom right now, and I'm just like jotting notes in my head, and you have such a very inspiring story, Crystal, and
Thank you.
It's such a resounding moment even for me as a person. And I'd be more interested again also to learn from your own personal experience, from your context as well. What are some of the strategies or interventions you've personally witnessed, been a part of, that actually work towards overcoming these said barriers? Yeah.
Wow, that's a good question. Really important for people to understand this part, especially. I think that each of us has a very unique path, right? That's what I believe. Our own battles that we have to fight.
Yeah.
We have our own legacies to leave behind, absolutely. And leadership to me is not holding a position or a title. It's actually about making an impact, and staying true to your values and creating a lasting legacy that will outlive you, right, for the benefit of others. Now, the key points I think that I see is people need to embrace their identities. People need to understand who are you. Answer that question before stepping into any leadership role, especially in politics, right? I think it's crucial to know who you are, know yourself, understand your identity, your values, and what truly drives you before stepping in here. Because the self-awareness is going to be the anchor in the chaotic world of leadership. And without a firm grasp of who you are, it's very easy to lose your way, super easy to be manipulated and to be set aside into a different direction than what you wanted. And this identity is the foundation where leadership is built. And it's going to shape your decisions, it's going to influence your priorities, and it's going to also determine how you respond to different challenges. That's what I have seen, and that's what I've experienced, and that's the message that I want to preach to young people. Take the time to reflect on your experiences and your beliefs and your passions, and because these are the elements that really will define who you are and what you will stand for moving forward. That's very important in politics. You have to believe in yourself. That's the second thing I would say. Confidence is the greatest ally. Trust in your abilities, absolutely, but never allow the pursuit of power to erode your core values, because many who gain power, they lose sight of what actually brought them there. Yeah, let that not be your story. That's what I always tell young people. Stay true to your motivations and remember the people you are here to serve. Yeah, it's not about being of service to yourself. Kill yourself, kill self, like has been said this morning, because it's going to be very important in terms of longevity.
Yeah.
And people look at me and they say, why are you still driving that little car that you used to drive? And I'm like, because that's not the reason I'm here. I wasn't here to upgrade my
Your life.
my car,
Yeah,
or
okay,
to get a bigger house or
Yeah.
to do XYZ. Actually, I have a very small or limited amount of time, and I want to use it in the best way possible. And also you have to define your purpose. I think it's very important. That's one thing that I see that many women don't sort of like think about in detail before they step into this. And maybe they're sort of struggling to find their way through. Ask what you're aiming for. You have to, or rather before you step into this arena, you have to set clear goals for yourself. Leadership is not just about holding an office. It's actually about the impact, like I say, you leave behind.
Yeah.
And so you have to ask yourself these questions. What's going to be your footprint? What legacy do you want to create? Define your purpose means being intentional about your goals and what change you want to see in your community and things like that, your country even, or even the world. Like, because these guiding lights will absolutely direct your actions and decisions moving forward, the small all the way to the big ones. So these are some of the things that I hold to myself.
Yeah.
I hold myself to that fire and ask these retrospective questions now and then, because I also need to keep myself in check, and people around me as well, make sure that they do the same for me.
How can philanthropy and funds like Colmena support democratic initiatives and women's political leadership, especially in the global south?
I think one way for me, I would say that I don't see a lot of, and maybe it's a space that Colmena Fund can get into, is talking directly to leadership players in different political parties across the continent. They're the ones who hold the keys to our opportunities as women and young women in politics. And so as much as we are coming for trainings and for workshops, and we're getting together in solidarity movements and supporting each other and motivating each other as women, at the end of the day, there is a system that we need to work through. And it always, and I say that a system is designed and built to get the results that it gets. It's not a mistake that the system is like this, right? And so how can philanthropies like Colmena do more? I think we can engage more at that level of political parties. So influencing or having conversations with people who make decisions in political parties to make them understand the importance of including women, young women, giving us more opportunities, and not just sort of leaving us as, oh, you guys have your own little caucus. Like you stick over there and let the big boys sort of like do the muscle work in politics. No, it should that can absolutely change, and I think that big organizations and funds like Colmena can be a voice in that direction. I also think that philanthropies can identify a few women, just like we have been identified to come here today, something similar, but identifying in any region or any space. These are the 5 women that we're going to put our backs into for the next X amount of time. We're going to train them. We're going to do a one-on-one basis with them. We're going to basically get them ready for what's ahead and what we believe that they can do. Because I also find a lot of the time that I also go for many trainings, and I've done so for a few years, but there's so many of us. Then we do maybe like 1 or 2 days of training, and it's really impactful at the time, but then we all go back to our own homes, and then we don't hear or see another donor until several months down the line. So there's no that consistency and continuity, because it's like a kid in school, a teacher. You find your favorite teacher, and you know this teacher is the one who's going to help me sort of like get through this and that, and you have someone to fall back on and pick ideas from and go back and forth with. So I think that's also an opportunity to identify just a handful of women and say, okay, you are our project for the next X amount of time. Lastly, I would say Visibility. I know for myself, Komena Fund was introduced to me just this year. So I know it's young still, but how can Komena Fund have more visibility on their brand, what they do, so that women can be like, there's another option, there's another opportunity for me to tap into. And so those, I think, for me are the three that can be worked on from right now.
Awesome. Crystal, what does democracy mean and look like to you?
That's a good question. Yeah. Democracy mean and look like to me. I think a democracy for me is a place or a space where voices are all listened to, given space to speak. Democracy is somewhere where everyone feels safe and included. I think democracy is a place where ideas and innovations are all embraced. They don't all have to be taken on and sort of like implemented, but at least they are embraced and listened to. I also think that democracy should be something that is contextualized, because I feel we have a borrowed democracy right now. And if it's not working for our context, whether it's East Africa, West Africa, or all of Africa, then why can't we be bold enough to say, this doesn't work? We need to rebuild this. Because I think that when something breaks down and you start again, you actually make it much stronger. It can actually be much better. So democracy right now, it looks like when I sort of like observe Africa in my context, is that it's not working the way it was handed down to us, because we had no say in it, you see. So if we had no say in it, then of course how will it work for our needs and our context right now, and also as we move forward where we want to see ourselves as Africans. So it needs to change, certainly. It's been really entrenched into us, unfortunately, in the last several decades, century or so. So how can we then reverse engineer that? How can we have new voices come on board and be bold enough to say, hey, listen, maybe this part isn't working. Maybe it doesn't work for us to sit in a chamber that is, a direct replica of the British Empire. Maybe our chambers require to be more in the communities. Maybe we don't need a chamber in Nairobi or any capital city. Things like that. So I think that anything that will work well will have to be designed by those who are using it, not be handed down to us. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm sitting here representing the demographic termed as young people. And I've heard you actually mention previously in this same conversation that what you tell young people who wish to enter politics. So if I wanted to venture into politics, let's say in the next month or even tomorrow or even now, what would you advise, Crystal?
I would say get it. Just go for it.
Okay.
Resist,
persist, and reimagine.
That brings us to the end of this powerful episode. Crystal's message to the next generation is simple. Just go for it. As we've heard today, leadership is more than a title. It's about staying true to your identity while having the courage to redesign systems that no longer serve us. We're thankful to Senator Crystal Asige for her candor and wisdom. Thank you for listening to Season 2 of Resist, Persist and Reimagine, a podcast series by Komena Fund. Until next time. Resist,
Persist, and reimagine.
a new era for African women's
Political power.